All right. Hey, what's up, everybody? This is This Machine Kills Fascist. I am your facilitator, Dorian Wallace, he, him, and today we are going to be reading the text, The American Far Right is Not a Glitch, a brief overview of 21st century American reactionary chauvinism and fascism by myself, Dorian Wallace. So it begins. What we call the far right in the United States is often framed as a fringe phenomenon, an outgrowth of poor education, economic anxiety, or internet radicalization. However, this neglects a larger pattern. The far right has historically adapted to the needs of power. Elites cultivate, protect, and retool it when the systems they oversee begin to lose legitimacy. Fascism, historically and globally, has served a clear function: to preserve ruling class dominance during periods of social instability by redirecting mass discontent away from structural critique and toward scapegoats. Whether in interwar Europe or neoliberal America, it mobilizes fear to reinforce hierarchy, often using populist rhetoric to mask elite-serving agendas. The post-Reagan American far right, with its roots from the 1990s to the present, follows this same pattern, shifting tactics, language, and aesthetics to maintain a base of supporters willing to defend hierarchy, punish dissent, and attack any effort towards justice or redistribution. From the militia movements in the wake of Waco and Ruby Ridge, to the Tea Party AstroTurf populism, to the Trump-era nationalism, to tech-enabled neo-reactionaries, each iteration has provided ideological cover and mobilization capacity for elite interests threatened by growing demands for equity. These dynamics are not abstract. They play out in homes, chat rooms, and communities. As Ellie Reeve documents in The Black Pill, radicalization is often deeply personal, but it is enabled by a social ecosystem that rewards cruelty, flattens complexity, and erodes empathy. Behind ironic memes and culture war jokes is a sustained, emotionally manipulative effort to recruit people into movements that serve state and corporate power by punching down. Part 1, 1990s to 2000s. Militia movements, post-Cold War fractures, and anti-government rage. The end of the Cold War left a strategic and ideological vacuum in US politics, with communism no longer available as a unifying adversary. The inherent contradictions of capitalism, rising wealth inequality, deindustrialization, and the erosion of public services became increasingly visible. Instead of addressing these systemic issues, political elites intensified cultural conflicts to divert public frustration. Conservative think tanks and media outlets promoted narratives that scapegoated marginalized communities, immigrants, Black Americans, the LGBTQ community, while championing deregulation and tough on crime policies. Events like Ruby Ridge, the Waco siege, and the Oklahoma City bombing reflected a growing perception among many, particularly conservative white men, that the federal government had become tyrannical. For Black communities, this belief was long held and grounded in lived experience. But among white conservatives, especially John Birch society types, the paranoia emerged from a perceived loss of privilege. Due to this positional privilege, their critique of state power rarely extended to a systemic analysis of capitalism or empire. Instead, it often veered into conspiracy theories rooted in anti-Semitism and racial grievance. These sentiments gave rise to a hyper-individualistic libertarianism fused with white survivalist ideology. The burgeoning internet provided new organizing tools for white nationalists, conspiracists, and militia groups, often under banners like freedom, patriotism, and constitutionalism. Yet, this movement was never truly about dismantling the state, as we're witnessing now. It was about preserving and redirecting its power toward a particular racial, religious, and cultural order. This era also saw the rise of extremist digital platforms such as Stormfront, launched in 1996 by former KKK leader Don Black, which offered a digital haven for white supremacist ideology. It marked a turning point where hate groups gained an unprecedented ability to coordinate, recruit, and spread propaganda on a global scale. Fractures within conservatism. The 1990s also ushered in prominent paleoconservative figures like Pat Buchanan, whose platform emphasized nationalism, traditionalism, and non-interventionism, often in opposition to globalist neoliberal agenda of neoconservatives. This internal right-wing conflict revealed a broader tension between isolationist populism and aggressive US militarism. Simultaneously, conservative media became a powerful force in reshaping American political discourse. Rush Limbaugh, though through his bombastic and often inflammatory radio broadcasts, channeled right-wing grievances into a sustained assault on liberal institutions, feminism, multiculturalism, and civil rights. His rhetoric fused entertainment with outrage, making political polarization profitable and accessible to a mass audience. I had many Rush Limbaugh listeners in my life and my family, to be honest. So yeah, Fox News launched in 1996. So that is what? Oh yeah, 96, all right. Fox News, launched in 1996 by Rupert Murdoch and Roger Ailes, institutionalized this model onto television, billing itself as fair and balanced, which that's a big red flag. If you ever hear a media organization telling you they're fair, be double skeptical. But billing itself as fair and balanced, Fox positioned itself as a corrective to mainstream journalism, but it really functioned primarily as a propaganda machine for right-wing populism and neoconservatism. Yes, for real. It offered a continuous stream of fear-based messaging, moral panic, and demonization of perceived liberal elites, further radicalizing its viewers and reinforcing narratives of Christian persecution, racial resentment, and cultural decline. Together, Limbaugh and Fox News created a media ecosystem that served as both a feedback loop and incubator for reactionary politics, normalizing conspiratorial thinking and cultivating deep public distrust in democratic institutions. The advent of the internet only deepened these fractures, with conspiracy theories flourishing in online echo chambers. Figures such as William Bill Cooper and Alex Jones, and I would also add David Icke, emerged as influential voices promoting apocalyptic paranoia and serious government distrust. Post 9/11, redirected state power. The attacks of September 11th, 2001 reshaped the landscape. Where communism had once served as the defining national enemy, new specters, terrorism, Islamification, immigration, took its place. So these fears, they bolstered xenophobia and intensified Christian nationalism. Anti-Muslim bigotry surged alongside broader anti-immigrant sentiment, reinforced by expanded state surveillance, detention policies, and media-driven moral panic. This era saw elements of the libertarian right oppose the Bush administration's neoconservatism, militarism. Figures like Ron Paul adopted anti-war and anti-surveillance stances, but often framed their critique through a conspiratorial anti-federalist rhetoric that echoed militia narratives of the 1990s. Conspiracy theorists such as Alex Jones thrived in the 9/11 media environment, promoting claims of government false flag operations and deep state machinations. These narratives deepened public distrust and laid critical groundwork for the radicalization that would intensify in the following decade. By the late 2000s, this atmosphere gave rise to the Tea Party movement, a convergence of libertarian, populist, and reactionary forces galvanized by economic anxiety, racial resentment, and opposition to the Obama presidency. While nominally focused on government spending and taxation, the Tea Party often served as a vehicle for birtherism, anti-immigrant rhetoric, and thinly veiled white identity politics. Media outlets like Fox News and figures like Glenn Beck amplified this message, giving it a platform, giving it a national platform. And one of the movement's most visible avatars or archetypes of this time was Sarah Palin, the former Alaska governor and 2008 Republican vice president nominee to John McCain. Palin's folksy populism, attacks on coastal elites, and embrace of culture war talking points helped normalize extremist rhetoric within mainstream Republican politics. Her popularity with Tea Party voters demonstrated how conspiratorial thinking, religious nationalism, and anti-intellectualism were becoming pillars of the emerging American right. And I've listed a whole bunch of people who were who were key figures. So people like William Pierce, David Duke, William Cooper, Roger Ailes, Rupert Murdoch, Pat Buchanan, Alex Jones, Ron Paul, Bo Gritz, Don Black, Rush Limbaugh, Glenn Beck, Lou Dobbs, Michael Savage, Steve Emerson, Sarah Palin, Michelle Malkin, and Sarah Engel. And some major points that came up during this era were the deep state, the globalist conspiracy, gun rights is a huge talking point, almost obsessive. Christian persecution is a common talking point, and anti-Black and anti-immigrant backlash, whether blatant or discreetly. 2010 to 2017, the alt-right. Man, I gotta be honest, this shit, that first part, that was my entire childhood. That's what I grew up in. You know, everyone in my life was Fox News or Rush Limbaugh, Sarah Palin supporter, Glenn Beck listener. You know, that was my entire childhood. So yeah, it's wild reading it out loud and remembering when writing it, just why I felt comfortable writing it, because it was exactly what I lived in. So now we're into the next part, the alt-right. So the aftermath of the Great Recession, the prolonged failures of the War on Terror, and the ongoing erosion of public trust in institutions created fertile ground for a new wave of far-right reaction. This movement coalesced in online spaces, initiating a contemporary rebranding of white nationalist activism cloaked in irony, meme culture, and pseudo-intellectualism. this movement became known as the alt-right. This also includes the supposed alt-right, though I really do reject that term, who sought it to distance itself from the overt anti-Semitism of the alt-right. But this distinction, honestly, it makes little difference in practice, as they are all white nationalist activists. Even the people of color in these movements, they are supporting and fighting for white supremacy and white nationalism. The alt-right emerged in the digital ecosystem of forums, podcasts, video channels, and blogs. Its adherents weaponized internet culture, memes, irony, and anonymity to radicalize disaffected young people, particularly men, under the guise of humor and so-called free speech absolutism. What developed was a decentralized, leaderless movement fueled by outrage and nihilism, thriving on virality and exploiting algorithm-driven platforms to amplify its reach and influence. A key flashpoint was Gamergate. This is in 2014, a misogynistic online harassment campaign masquerading as a call for ethics in video game journalism. It became a recruitment tool for the far right, promoting a reactionary narrative of male victimhood, anti-feminism, and resentment toward perceived liberal overreach. From this environment, figures like Milo Yiannopoulos and Andrew Anglin emerged as culture war provocateurs, using internet trolling to normalize white supremacist rhetoric under the banner of free speech. In reality, their ideologies are fundamentally opposed to free expression, seeking to silence dissent and suppress marginalized voices in order to enforce cultural and political hegemony. Fascists have historically used free speech laws to embed into spaces, but when in power, they take those rights away. Do not trust these motherfuckers. Do not fucking trust them. So Pepe the Frog, Kekistan, and the memes. Alt-right communities weaponized internet memes and absurdist humor to smuggle extremist ideology into mainstream discourse. Symbols like Pepe the Frog, originally a benign cartoon, was repurposed with Nazi iconography, lynchings, and Holocaust references, camouflaged by layers of irony and plausible deniability. Kekistan, a fictional country with a parody Nazi flag and frog god mythology, allowed far-right actors to mock identity politics while embedding white nationalist ideology in satire. These symbols aided in creating in-group cohesion and detachment from reality, cloaking hate under the guise of humor. And this is what Pepe the Frog looks like, and this is the flag of Kekistan. A wider symbolic lexicon, including the OK hand gesture, the triple parentheses, they call them echoes, and slang like red pill, NPC, and cuck, functioned as coded language for recruitment, plausible deniability, and the gamification of harassment. This culture blurred the line between irony and ideology, leading to real-world violence. The Southern Poverty Law Center identified these trends as central to modern white nationalism. Donald Trump, 2016. On June 16, 2015, Donald Trump descended the escalator at Trump Tower to announce his candidacy for President of the United States. His speech began with a now infamous statement. When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're bringing drugs. They're bringing crime. They're rapists. And some, I assume, are good people. Trump launched a campaign rooted in racial grievance, anti-immigrant fear-mongering, and xenophobic caricatures. His announcement marked a reawakening of overt white nationalism within mainstream electoral politics. Throughout his campaign and presidency, these themes remained central. His slogan, "Make America Great Again," invoked a mythologized past shaped by white hegemony and ethno-nationalist identity. He amplified conspiracy theories like birtherism. He equated immigration with criminality, and he called for a ban on Muslims entering the country. The very next day, on June 17th, 2015, a white supremacist entered Emmanuel African Methodist Episcopal Church in Charleston, South Carolina. During a Bible study session, he murdered 9 African Americans, parishioners and community leaders, and injured a 10th. The victims were Clementa C. Pinckney, age 41, senior pastor and South Carolina state senator; Cynthia Marie Graham Hurd, age 54, librarian and lifelong church member; Susie Jackson, 87, choir member and church matriarch; Ethel Lee Lance, 70, church custodian; DePayne Middleton, doctor, 49, minister and school administrator; Tywanza Sanders, 26, recent college graduate and aspiring entrepreneur; Daniel Simmons, 74, retired pastor; Sharonda Coleman Singleton, 45, minister and high school speech coach; Myra Thompson, 59, Bible study teacher and church leader. The massacre was premeditated and ideologically driven. The shooter later confessed he hoped to ignite a race war in the United States. His motivations were shaped by extremist websites like the Council of Conservative Citizens, whose spokesperson, Jared Taylor, is a key figure in the alt-right movement. These influences informed his explicitly neo-Nazi worldview, which cast racial integration as the downfall of Western civilization and fantasized about restoring a white ethno-state. The Council of Conservative Citizens removed its website following public backlash. Still, it released a chilling statement claiming the shooter had some legitimate grievances against Black people, asserting that the site merely accurately and honestly reports Black on white violent crimes. Harold Covington, founder of the neo-Nazi Northwest Front, condemned the shooting only tactically, ominously calling it a preview of coming attractions. Oh, these people suck. That preview soon came into sharper focus. The same ideological currents that radicalized the Charleston shooter was converging around the presidential candidacy of Donald Trump. Trump's campaign became a megaphone for the alt-right and alt-light, which flooded online spaces with memes, disinformation, and coded hate speech. By appointing Steve Bannon, who was executive chairman of Breitbart News, which branded itself as the platform for the alt-right, Trump built a direct bridge between white nationalist media and the executive branch. Among the most notorious figures elevated by this ecosystem was Richard Spencer, a white nationalist who openly advocated for peaceful ethnic cleansing of racial minorities in the United States, the re-enslavement of Haitians by white people, and he voiced admiration for American Nazi Party founder George Lincoln Rockwell. The alt-right reintroduced fascist ideology into mainstream discourse under the guise of free speech and identity politics for white Americans. Donald Trump campaign and early presidency, far-right violence surged across the U.S., from the Charleston Church massacre to the Portland train stabbings, from mosque bombings to the rise of armed militias in public life. Extremists perceived the ideologies Trump evokes as a green light for action. Spencer himself regularly used Nazi rhetoric and gestures in public. After Trump's 2016 election victory, Trump declared, "Hail Trump! Hail our people! Hail victory!" prompting attendees to respond with Nazi salutes. In the following months, Richard Spencer quoted Nazi propaganda, denounced Jews, and encouraged his supporters to party like it's 1933. At the height of his following, Spencer was routinely greeted with Nazi salutes as he entered public events. I put a video about Unite the Right. Unite the Right. The Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, Virginia on August 11th through 12th, 2017 marked the culmination of this era of violent white supremacist extremism. Organized by white nationalist, neo-Nazi, and fascist and alt-right leaders to protest against the removal of Confederate monuments. The night before the official event, torch-wielding men marched through the University of Virginia campus chanting, "Jews will not replace us, and blood and soil." These are slogans lifted directly from Nazi ideology. The rally was organized by white nationalist Jason Kessler, who fought a legal battle to keep the demonstration at Lee Park. The city complied despite safety concerns, and violence erupted almost immediately as heavily armed white supremacists clashed with protesters and counter-protesters. Police declared the rally to be an unlawful assembly before it had officially begun. That morning, former KKK Grand Wizard David Duke declared, "We are determined to take our country back. We're going to fulfill the promises of Donald Trump. That's why we voted for Donald Trump." After the rally, Duke praised Donald Trump's response, tweeting, "Thank you, President Trump, for your honesty and courage to tell the truth about #Charlottesville and condemn the leftist terrorists in Black Lives Matter and Antifa." Neo-Nazi websites, The Daily Stormer, celebrated Trump's refusal to explicitly condemn white nationalists and white supremacists. "He didn't attack us. No condemnation at all. Really, really good. God bless him." The rally ended in tragedy when a white supremacist attendee deliberately drove his car into a crowd of anti-racist counter-protesters, killing Heather Heyer and injuring dozens more. The driver was later convicted of first-degree murder and federal hate crimes, receiving multiple life sentences. Additional violence included the brutal beating of Deandra Harris by white supremacists, which was captured on video. In the aftermath, President Trump refused to unequivocally denounce the white nationalists, infamously stating that there were very fine people on both sides. Leaked audio captured Richard Spencer shortly after the rally, unleashing a hateful, unfiltered tirade. The leaked audio laid bare the violence, dehumanizing, genocidal worldview at the core of this movement. I'm going to play it here so I don't have to say it myself. Okay, cool. Here we go.
Roll it.
We are coming back here like 100 times. I am so mad. I am so mad at these people. They don't do this to me. We're gonna ritualistically humiliate them. I am coming back here every weekend if I have to. Like, this is never over. I win, they lose. That's how the world works. Little they get ruled by people like me. Little octoroons. My ancestors enslaved those pieces of we're gonna win. I rule the world. Those pieces of get ruled by people like me. That's how the world works. We are gonna destroy this town.
Wow. Yeah, man.
So here's your very fine people. And some key figures of this era: Richard Spencer, Andrew Anglin, Matthew Heimbach, Mike Enoch, Nick Fuentes, Augustus Sol Invictus, Jason Kessler, Milo Yiannopoulos, Gavin McGinnis, Faith Goldie, Lauren Southern, Paul Joseph Watson, Jack Posobiec, Steve Bannon, Steve Miller, and Donald Trump. Some key events: Breitbart News Foundation and the Daily Stormer. They served as echo chambers for racism, misogyny, anti-Semitism, and conspiracism. Of course, Gamergate, the Charleston church shooting, the Muslim ban, Executive Order 13769 in 2017, and then the Unite the Right rally from 2017. Thank you all so much. My name is Dorian Wallace, he, him. This was a reading of part 1 of The American Far Right is Not a Glitch, a brief overview of 21st century American reactionary chauvinism and fascism. Again, my name is Dorian Wallace. This is This Machine Kills Fascists, and we'll catch y'all next time. Peace.